The mathematics of sacrifice. The ancient chamber remained warm long after Cassian and Elena had climbed back toward the surface, its standing stones still pulsing with residual energy from the forbidden workings they had witnessed. 300 years of dormancy had ended in a single morning, and the hunger that had awakened would not easily return to sleep. Cassian emerged from the archives into late afternoon sunlight that felt wrong against his altered skin. The warmth that should have been pleasant registered as neither hot nor cold, just another sensation observed from increasing distance. Elena walked beside him, her monitoring equipment secured in her satchel, her green eyes watching him with an intensity that would have made him uncomfortable if he could still properly access discomfort. "You need to eat something," Elena said as they crossed the palace courtyard. "When was the last time you had a proper meal?" Cassian tried to remember and couldn't pin down a specific time. Yesterday? The day before? The gap where hunger should have been felt vast and concerning. "I'm not sure it matters anymore." "It matters." Her hand caught his arm, stopping him. "This is exactly what the texts warned about. The disconnection comes in stages, and you're treating it like it's inevitable instead of something to fight against." "Because it is inevitable." He met her gaze, seeing his reflection in her eyes, the dark veins spreading from his temples, the shadows that moved independently beneath his skin. "We both read what happens to practitioners of Anathema-class magic. The only variable is how long the process takes and how much I can accomplish before you stop being Cassian Netherbane entirely," Elena finished, her voice sharp. "Yes, I read that part too, but you're accelerating it. Every time you treat your humanity as already lost, you make it easier to lose." Before he could respond, a palace runner approached at a sprint, his young face flushed with exertion. "Magister Netherbane, High Inquisitor Mordain requests your immediate presence at his office. He says it's urgent." Cassian and Elena exchanged glances. Mordain's office was in the inquisitorial tower on the palace's eastern edge, a place few mages visited willingly. The fact that he was summoning Cassian, rather than simply appearing unannounced, suggested something had changed. "Tell him I'm on my way," Cassian said. The runner nodded and sprinted back across the courtyard. Elena fell into step beside Cassian as he turned toward the tower. "Whatever this is, I'm coming with you." "Elena? Don't." Her tone left no room for argument. "You promised I could be your anchor. That means I'm there for the difficult conversations too." The inquisitorial tower rose 7 stories above the palace complex, its dark stone a deliberate contrast to the warm amber of the main buildings. Guards flanked the entrance, their expressions neutral but their hands near their weapons as Cassian approached. One of them nodded recognition and pushed open the heavy door without comment. Inside, the tower was austere to the point of severity. Stone walls bore no decoration beyond ward glyphs that hummed with active power, and the narrow windows admitted light in precise shafts that left most of the space in shadow. A spiral staircase wound upward, and Cassian could feel the layers of detection magic woven into every step. Mordain's office occupied the tower's top floor. The door stood open, revealing a circular room lined with books and magical instruments. The High Inquisitor stood at the window, his black robes blending with the shadows, his gray eyes fixed on something in the distance. "Come in," Mordain said without turning. "Both of you, close the door." Elena shut the door behind them, and Cassian felt privacy wards engage with a soft click of power. Whatever Mordain wanted to discuss, he didn't want it overheard. Mordain finally turned to face them, and Cassian saw something in his expression he hadn't seen before. Not anger or disapproval, but something closer to resignation. "How was your practice session in the warded chamber?" "You already know the answer to that," Cassian said. "The wards report to you. They report magical signatures and power levels. They don't tell me about control, efficiency, or whether you're learning fast enough." Mordain moved to his desk, where a stack of reports lay weighted down by a crystal paperweight. "So I'm asking directly, are you learning fast enough?" Cassian considered lying, then discarded the idea. Mordain would see through it, and honesty served them both better now. "I reduced the corruption burn rate from 3% to 2% per 30 seconds. At that rate, I could maintain Void Flame for approximately 25 minutes before complete consumption." And you need hours, days, potentially, depending on what the Voidweaver throws at us during the confrontation. Cassian met Mordain's gaze. The mathematics don't work. Even if I achieve perfect efficiency, I'm one mage attempting what required 73. Mordain was silent for a long moment, his weathered face unreadable. Then he picked up the top report from his desk. Another wardstone failed this morning, the eastern perimeter, near the merchant district. 3 shadow spawn manifested before we could contain the breach. Casualties? Elena asked. Mordain's expression darkened. 2 guards dead, 5 civilians injured. Magister Theron managed to drive the creatures back through the breach before it sealed itself, but it was close. He set the report down. That's the 4th breach in 3 days. The pattern is accelerating. Cassian felt the ley lines humming beneath his feet, their rhythm wrong in a way he couldn't articulate. The corruption spreading through them was like rot in wood, invisible on the surface until suddenly everything collapsed. How long do we have? The Royal Arcanist estimates 5 days until the next major breach, 3 days after that until the wards fail completely. Mordain's gray eyes were hard. 8 days, Magister Netherbane. That's your timeline. 8 days. The number settled into Cassian's chest like a stone. 8 days to master magic that had taken the founding mages years to perfect. 8 days to become powerful enough to face an entity that had required 73 high magisters to seal. 8 days before he either saved the kingdom or died trying. There's more, Mordain continued. King Aldric is calling an emergency council session at noon tomorrow. He's going to order a conventional reinforcement of the failing wards, every available magister, working in concert to shore up the weakest points. That won't work, Cassian said immediately. Conventional magic feeds the Voidweaver. Any reinforcement will just accelerate the collapse. I know that. You know that. Even Archmage Verena knows that. Mordain's voice was flat. The king doesn't want to hear it. He's convinced that enough traditional power, properly focused, can hold the line until we find another solution. There is no other solution, Cassian said. I know. Mordain moved to the window again, his silhouette sharp against the fading daylight. Which is why I'm telling you this now. When that reinforcement fails, and it will fail within hours of implementation, you'll need to be ready to act. Not in 8 days, not in 5. Tomorrow night, most likely. The implications crashed over Cassian like a wave. Tomorrow night. Less than a day to prepare for a confrontation he wasn't ready for, using magic he barely understood, against an entity that had survived 3 centuries of imprisonment. You're giving me advance warning, Cassian said slowly. Why? Mordain turned back to face them, and for the first time since Cassian had met him, the High Inquisitor looked old. Because 30 years ago, I watched a young magister die, rather than use forbidden magic when it was necessary. I've carried that with me every day since. I won't make the same mistake twice. The admission hung in the air between them. Elena's hand found Cassian's, her fingers warm against his increasingly cold skin. When you act in the field, Mordain continued, I will be forced to respond. My duty requires it, but I can give you time to prepare. I can make sure you have access to the resources you need, and I can ensure that when the moment comes, you're not fighting alone. You can't be seen helping me, Cassian said. It would destroy you. Perhaps. Mordain's expression was unreadable. But I'd rather be destroyed helping save the kingdom than survive watching it fall because I was too concerned with propriety. Cassian felt something shift in his understanding of the High Inquisitor. This wasn't just tactical permission or political calculation. Mordain was choosing to risk everything on a desperate gamble, fully aware of the consequences. There's one more thing, Mordain said. He moved to a locked cabinet against the wall, speaking words of power that made the air shimmer. The door swung open, revealing a single leather-bound journal. This belonged to Magister Kael Thornweave, one of the 5 survivors of the original sealing. Cassian's breath caught. The king's ancestor? The king's great-great-great-uncle, to be precise. Mordain lifted the journal carefully, as if it might crumble at his touch. It was sealed by royal decree 300 years ago, deemed too dangerous to exist. Only the High Inquisitor and the reigning monarch know of its location. And you're giving it to me, Cassian said, understanding the magnitude of what Mordain was offering. This wasn't just forbidden knowledge. This was a first-hand account of the original sealing, written by someone who had survived the process. "I'm lending it to you," Mordain corrected, "for the next 24 hours. After that, it needs to be back in this cabinet, or my career ends even if you succeed." He held out the journal. Kael Thornweave lasted 6 months after the sealing, before the corruption consumed him completely. His journal documents the techniques he used to maintain control, the mistakes that accelerated his decline, and the final working he performed before they locked him away. Cassian took the journal with trembling hands. The leather was old and cracked, but the wards woven into the binding still hummed with power. He could feel the weight of the knowledge inside, practical experience from someone who had walked this path before him. "Why are you really doing this?" Elena asked Mordain, her voice quiet but firm. "The truth." Mordain met her gaze for a long moment. "Because I'm 58 years old, and I've spent 30 of those years hunting down mages who broke the laws I'm sworn to uphold. I've bound them, imprisoned them, and in 3 cases, executed them. And every single one of them told me the same thing before the end, that they had no choice, that circumstances forced their hand, that they were trying to help." He paused, his gray eyes distant. "I never believed them. I thought they were rationalizing their choices, justifying their corruption. But now I'm standing in a tower watching the kingdom's wards fail, knowing that the only solution is the very thing I've spent my life preventing. And I wonder if some of those mages I hunted were telling the truth. If they really had no choice. If I killed people who might have saved lives simply because I was too rigid to see past the law." "You can't change the past," Elena said gently. "No, but I can choose differently now." Mordain's attention returned to Cassian. "Study that journal tonight. Learn everything Kael Thornweave discovered about maintaining control and extending your window of functionality. And when the king's reinforcement fails tomorrow, be ready to act." Cassian clutched the journal to his chest. "What about you? When I use forbidden magic in the field, you'll be forced to hunt me." "Yes." Mordain's voice was steady. "But I'll hunt you slowly, and if you succeed in stopping the Voidweaver, I'll hunt you right into a cell where you can live out whatever time you have left in relative comfort. It's the best compromise I can offer. And if I fail?" Mordain's expression was grim. "Then we'll all be dead, and the question becomes moot." The 3 of them stood in silence as the last light faded from the windows. Somewhere in the distance, bells chimed the hour, 6 notes that echoed across the palace complex. 8 days had become 1 day. 1 day had become tomorrow night. Cassian felt the weight of Kael Thornweave's journal in his hands and the weight of the kingdom's survival on his shoulders. The mathematics were impossible. The timeline was insufficient. The cost would be everything he was, but he would try anyway. "Thank you," Cassian said to Mordain, "for trusting me with this." Mordain nodded once. "Don't make me regret it." Cassian and Elena left the inquisitorial tower as darkness settled over Thornhaven. The city lights were beginning to kindle in windows across the capital. Thousands of people going about their evening routines, unaware that their world was 8 days from ending, unaware that their only hope was a young mage who was slowly ceasing to be human. They walked in silence toward Cassian's apartment, the journal secure in his satchel. Elena's hand remained in his, her warmth a reminder of everything he was sacrificing. "We need to study that journal tonight," Cassian said finally. "Every technique, every warning, every piece of practical knowledge Kael Thornweave recorded." "Agreed." Elena's voice was steady, despite the fear he could feel in the tension of her fingers. "But first, you're eating something." No arguments. Cassian wanted to protest that food was a waste of time, that every moment counted, that his body's needs were becoming increasingly irrelevant. But he saw the determination in Elena's face and recognized it for what it was. Not concern for his physical health, but an anchor thrown to keep him connected to his humanity for 1 more day. "All right," he said. "Food first, then we read." They reached his apartment as full darkness fell. Elena lit the lamps while Cassian set Kael Thornweave's journal on his desk, its presence seeming to fill the room with weight. 300 years of sealed knowledge, the last testament of a man who had saved the kingdom and lost himself in the process. Cassian traced the worn leather binding with one finger, feeling the wards respond to his touch. Somewhere deep in the Shadowvale wastes, the Voidweaver stirred in its weakening prison, aware of him in ways that defied distance or barriers. Tomorrow night, the reinforcement would fail. Tomorrow night, he would be forced to act. Tomorrow night, he would step fully onto the path that ended in either the kingdom's salvation or his own damnation. Possibly both. Elena appeared beside him, 2 plates of bread and cheese in her hands. "Eat," she commanded. "Then we'll see what secrets Kael Thornweave left behind." Cassian took the plate and forced himself to eat, tasting nothing, feeling the food as distant and abstract as everything else. But he ate anyway, because Elena needed him to, because it was one more act of defiance against the corruption spreading through him. And when he opened Kael Thornweave's journal an hour later, the first words he read made his blood run cold. "To whoever reads this, you are already lost. The only question is how much good you can do before the darkness claims you completely. Use your time wisely."
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.